Now we come to the Republic of Texas. We are getting into the big times. And as we go through the Republic of Texas land grants and the State of Texas land grants, we are going to need to know some important definitions. Certificate and patent. A certificate is an IOU. It says, the Republic of Texas owes James Smith 1,280 acres. Where is that property? What kind of property is it? What are the details? We don't know. This is simply a certificate. It is an IOU. In order to cash in your actual land, you will submit this certificate to the land board, and the land board will say, okay, James Smith, go out and find your property. So James Smith would hire a surveyor. The surveyor and the property owner would work together to find a vacant piece of property. And what's so cool is that if you have a approved certificate, then you could go out and find whatever property you want in Texas most of the time, survey it, and then submit that survey to the GLO, General Land Office. Once your property survey is accepted by the GLO, then the GLO will issue a patent. A land patent is just like a deed, it's a conveyance. So the final step in the process is getting your land patent. Certificate, survey, patent. A major issue when working with junior-senior rights is when is your neighbor's property made and when was your property made. So if your neighbor's property is older than yours, they have what's called senior rights over you. How do you determine senior rights? Is it the date of the certificate, the date of the survey, or the date of the patent? It's going to be the date of the survey. If your neighbor's survey was made on January 1st, 2012, and yours was February 1st, 2012, and there's a land conflict, your neighbor will win. Always look for the date of the survey. Highlight it so you don't get confused. There are two types of land grants in the Republic of Texas. Those are land grants for the common folk. Those are the farmers and the grazers and whoever else is coming from different countries. And there's also military land grants. These are people who have fought and died, or at least fought, in the military at some point. They're kind of different, but they're pretty much the same. The thing you have to know here is the details. Why did the Headright system start in Texas? Why did the donation system start in Texas? How much land was given as a preemption grant? How much land was given in Confederate scrip? And these are our basic terms. Now, let me clarify one thing. Preemption grants only came in the state of Texas, and Confederate scrip only came when the Confederates took over Texas and the state of Texas broke off from the United States and became a Confederate state. So let's go through and talk about these different terms, and let's learn who were these grants intended for, what was the date of operation, and how much land did someone get. The Headright system, the head of household has the rights to property, was created, quote, in order to build a tax base and encourage settlement in the new Republic of Texas. Immigrants were granted land by the government, and the amount of acreage issued was based on the time period in which an immigrant arrived in Texas. Translation: the Headright system was created to push the Indians and the squatters off of the Republic lands, and it was also made because the Republic of Texas was broke. The Republic of Texas had $55.82 in the treasury when the Republic won the revolution. So the Republic is broke, and you've got a bunch of darn Mexicans and Spaniards living on this property. Let's get rid of them. It's important to appreciate that there are first, second, third, and fourth class headrights. There are 4 different headrights available, and the reason why there are 4 different headrights is because over the years, the Republic of Texas government changed the amount of land and the requirements to get this land. So basically, you're an Anglo, you roll in from Georgia, you tell them you need some property, and they set you up. From the date of revolution up until March 2nd, 1836, head of households could receive about 4,600 acres of land, and single men would receive about 1,500 acres. Know the date of availability and the amount of land, because that would be a great test question. Second-class headrights. From March 2nd, 1836 to October 1st, 1837, heads of household got 2 sections, 1,280 acres, and single men got 1 section, 640 acres. Know the dates, know the type of headright, second class, and know the acreages available. Third class headrights, which ran from October 1st, 1837 to January 1st, 1840, heads of household got 1 section, single men got 320 acres, half a section. Fourth class headrights ran from January 1st, 1840 to January 1st, 1842. And the amount was the same, 1 acre and half an acre, but the only difference was that these people had to cultivate, plant, or use at least 10 acres. Why was the property going down, down, down from 4,600 acres to 640 acres? Because as Texas got more settled, Texas became more popular and less dangerous. In the beginning, you had to offer a lot of property to get a family to move to Texas. 4,600 acres, that is a lot of property. But after so many decades, 10, 20 years goes by, then those same families would come to Texas given less property. The next group of grants we have are military grants. And military grants were given for 2 reasons. Number 1, for the term of service. If you enlist, I will give you land. If you re-enlist, I will also give you land. Those are the bounty grants, military headrights, and Confederate scrips. Additionally, land was given to military veterans for their performance in a battle. I fought in the Alamo. Therefore, I am entitled to land. And also for disability. You have your leg blown off, you are no longer able to work. And back in the day, there was no FDR and Social Security. The Republic of Texas gave maimed, disabled, and dead veterans property. So why do we have military grants, enlistments, battle performance, and disability or death? Getting people to fight in the Revolution and getting people to protect the Republic of Texas from Mexico was tough. These were nasty conditions where violence, disease were very, very prevalent. So in order to get some soldiers, the Republic of Texas said that for every 3 months of service, we will give you half a section. And if you stay enrolled for 1 year, you will get 1,280 acres, 2 full sections. If you died in battle, then the government would give your heirs, your wife and your kids, the full 2 sections. It's a pretty good deal. But this only lasted until October 1st, 1837. Next, we have donation grants. Donation grants were not terms of service. They were performance in a specific battle. After the Battle of San Jacinto, the Texas legislature met and they said, I'm going to award every person who participated in this battle a section of land. Why did they do that? They did it for morale and they did it for enrollment. If you are a family member of all the people killed in the Alamo, then what can we do to help you? We can give you 640 acres. Also, it really motivates you to go to battle. Convincing a rational human being to go into a giant bloodbath defies logic. If you have an expectation, if you're going to participate in a major battle, like, oh man, I bet I'm going to get a full section of land out of this. Well, it's a little more motivation. They provided these for soldier motivation and for reimbursement of terror, basically. Next, we've got military headrights. Military headrights are nothing more than bounty grants. They're the same thing. The problem is that these bounty grants would give people a maximum of 1,280 acres. But at the same time, the farmers were getting 4,000 acres of land. You fight, you get 640 acres. You farm, you get 4,600 acres. That is not very fair. So the Republic of Texas decided that if you served between a certain date in 1836, why these dates I have no idea, then you will get 4,600 acres as head of household. It was just a leveling field. It was a way to level between the farmers and the military. Last but not least, we have the rebel scrips, the Confederate scrips. And the Confederate script said that if you were a veteran or you were a widow of a veteran of the Confederate War of Independence, the War of Northern Aggression, then you would be awarded by the Confederacy 1,280 acres of land. So these rebel scrips are not under the Republic of Texas. They are under the Confederate government. If you are from 1881 to 1883, you will get 2 sections of land, 1,280 acres. Before we move on to the state of Texas, let's talk for a minute about the impresario. The Republic of Texas acknowledged that the impresario system was very, very successful. And because of that, alongside these headrights and military grants, the Republic of Texas brought back impresarios and, DeWitt and Peters in Austin. All these guys were famous. But there was about a dozen impresarios under the Texas Republic. And these guys brought in families. They gave them about 640 acres each, and they were required to cultivate some land. But anyways, just be aware that the Republic of Texas brought back impresarios for several years in order to spur development. Last but not least, we have the state of Texas land records. The Republic of Texas was annexed by the United States of America in December of 1845. And after they were annexed into America, there was still land grants being granted to private parties. But they had a different name. The land grant system in the United States of America was called the Preemption grant, and it only applied to Texas. Why is that? It's because the state of Texas retained all of its public lands when entering as a state in the U.S. And why is that? We'll talk about that in our history lecture. Don't worry about it right now, but be aware that preemption grants were granted to convey lands in the unappropriated Texas domain. So to transfer land from the state of Texas to private parties. From 1845 to 1854, half a section was granted. From 1854 to 1856, a quarter section of land was granted. That program took a 10-year hiatus, and then back in 1866, it was started up again, where we gave out 1/4 of a section, or 160 acres. Fun fact. Around 1898, Texas realized that it had granted many millions of acres of land that did not actually exist. People had certificates for land, and there was no land left. What happened? We'll talk about that again in the history lesson, but Texas made a huge mistake in granting millions of acres of land to people where that land did not exist in the public domain. In addition to preemption grants, which were grants to settle and farm and graze, there was also this thing called loan and sales scrip. How does this work? Well, Texas has a loan, and the loan is to Cornelius Vanderbilt. So the state of Texas owes Cornelius Vanderbilt $100 million. The state of Texas has no money. They're broke. So Texas gives Cornelius Vanderbilt 10,000 acres of land in exchange for making their loan payment. So the sales scrip was to buy things like the General Land Office needed office supplies. So they traded 640 acres of land for an ox cart full of drafting paper. On the other hand, loan scrip was used to pay existing loans. We traded 10,000 acres of Texas public domain for $1 million of loan forgiveness from Cornelius Vanderbilt. That's important because Texas gave out, hundreds of thousands or millions of acres of land in this program. The loan and sales scrip was funded through different initiatives. So in 18 whatever, there was a law passed called the GLO scrip. And the GLO scrip, the purpose was to get money to pay the salaries and expenses of the General Land Office. And as part of that, Texas sold off 600,000 acres. Another program, the Irwin scrip. The Irwin scrip was created to fund transportation. So Texas got together, they passed a law and said that we will sell 250,000 acres and we will use that money to build roads. So these loan scrip programs were really ad hoc. Now, who were these scripts named after? They were often named after founding fathers of the Republic or founding fathers of the state of Texas. Irwin, Bryan, Houston, White, all these guys are founding fathers of Texas. Fast forward today, and we have the TIF scrip. The trustees of the Internal Improvement Fund of Texas. And the Internal Improvement Fund was used to build things like railroads, steamboats, factories, navigation, irrigation, even the state capitol and public buildings. The purpose here was to trade land in exchange for services and buildings. It's just like a gift card. I will give you 400,000 acres of Texas public domain if you build a Capitol building in Austin, Texas. I will give you 640 acres of the public domain for every mile of railroad that you build. This is a trade. And it was done because Texas was very backwoods, very, very rural, very few public services. And the state of Texas knew that in order to make this a great state, they had to be able to provide government services. So if we don't have the money to trade for government services, we'll trade the land. And finally, the most important purpose of state land I can think of: education. Elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, even universities like the University of Texas at Austin. All of these were built and are still being funded by school money. And there is a thing called the Permanent School Fund, and the Permanent School Fund is property in trust which is being leased or sold for the purpose of funding the Texas school system. At a certain point, there is no more land left to give. And in 1898, the Texas Supreme Court case, Hogue versus Baker, said that the state of Texas was flat out of public domain. And it said in the new act of 1900 that this act was created to fund the Permanent School Fund of Texas. Now, why did the Permanent School Fund have to, quote, adjust the account balance? What was this adjustment? Well, the adjustment was that the state of Texas gave the PSF, Permanent School Fund, millions of acres of land. That did not exist. There was no more public domain, but the Permanent School Fund had certificates to millions of acres. So the state of Texas basically paid fair market value to the PSF, and this money, along with the remaining land, was put into a trust which still funds Texas public school today. And that's it. It's so important to understand how people got their property. I love doing surveys in Texas because when I do a Texas survey, I put down Lot 5, Block 2, Shady Pines subdivision, Nueces County, and I also put in the abstract number of the land because any property in Texas is derived from a Spanish, Mexican, republic, or state grant. And I always reference how did this property go from public domain to private domain. And the land records in the Texas General Land Office are fantastic. If you've never been to the GLO, it is a must-do before your RPLS exam because you will learn so much history and so much information. As a surveyor, you should be able to find this information. So go on the GLO website, go to the GLO in Austin, and go searching. And enjoy it, because if you love land, then Texas is the best state in the whole country to practice in.